What up, my fellow car nerds? Welcome back to the channel. My name's AJ. This is going to be an update video on our barn find Porsche 911. First and foremost, thanks to everyone who left a positive comment or a word of encouragement or a piece of advice when it came to taking on this project. I was genuinely shocked at the amount of positivity I received in the comment section and the amount of interest people had in the car and the story behind it. I wasn't really intending to start a YouTube channel, but the video really took off and it had enough traction that we were actually able to monetize the channel. So I'm super grateful for that. So for those of you that are new to the channel, around Christmas time last year, I released a video that was essentially a silent film where I was documenting the process of unearthing this car. I wasn't really thinking about entertainment value or the YouTube community when I was filming the video. I just kind of wanted to make sure I had something to visually reference down the road when I started to tear down the car. Having a picture or a video goes a long way when helping you sort things out. The second biggest comment I got was wanting to know what the story was and how I found the car. It's pretty interesting because the car kind of found me. One day one of my neighbors told me that his next door neighbor had passed away and there was an old Porsche in the garage. And I couldn't believe it because I'd met the dude plenty of times and talked with him about bicycles and trains. He was an old railroad man, retired from Norfolk Southern. And he never mentioned the car. He never mentioned it, which blows my mind. And I had walked by the shed it was in 1,000 times. And you would never think that a car like this would be in a shed like that. Luckily, the family that was settling the estate, they were going to donate it to Cars for Kids, a local charity. They just wanted it gone. They didn't want to deal with it. And my neighbor tipped me off, and I was over there immediately with all the cash I had. I kind of let them know that I had every intent to rebuild it and keep it forever. It's one of my dream cars. I've always been obsessed with Beetles and Volkswagens, and like when the internet first came out, I was around 13. We had a dial-up connection in the middle school library, and that's the first thing I searched was for a Volkswagen Beetle, and I wound up printing off all these pictures of like pre-war split windows and Cubal wagons and all sorts of weird stuff, and I was just obsessed with Volkswagens, absolutely obsessed. And I eventually learned that Ferdinand Porsche designed the Beetle, and the Beetle eventually kind of morphed and stretched into what is now known as the 911 platform. So this car for me is just a dream come true. And, blue collar, working class, regular dudes, you don't really get a stab at something like this at this price. So I feel super blessed and grateful. Luckily, I was able to buy several motorcycles as part of the deal. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to buy the BSA that's in the prior video, but I was able to sell the 2 motorcycles that came as part of the package deal. I paid $5,000 for everything, and I sold the 2 motorcycles for $1,300. So I'm hauling this car for $3,700, which is insane. And the family was cool enough to let me take my time in unearthing it and getting it over to my house. We were able to push it over to my house once we got it out, but it took 2 weeks at least just to get it out of that shed. Everything was just so stuck. Like the brake calipers were stuck, the wheel bearings were stuck. It took 2 weeks of finessing and persuading to even get the engine lid open or the front trunk open. Like when the front trunk opened, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it, and was real excited to find the missing Fuchs wheel, the rear wheel. I think I got to pull the date code on these wheels. I'm convinced that these are probably original wheels. Seems like this is a completely original car, down to the floor mats. It's a matching numbers engine. Pulled the serial number off of it. Falls in the date code for a US spec Super Carrera of this era. I assume the transmission is. I got to get in there and look at it. Original toolkit, original floor jack in the trunk. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I couldn't be happier. So that's the story how I found the car. Let's take a look at everything that's wrong with it. Trust me, there's a lot more wrong with it than right. Obviously, all 4 tires are going to need to be replaced, so the first order of business will be to get the car up on jack stands and send the wheels out to be cleaned up or lightly refinished. Once the wheels are cleaned up and we've got new tires mounted and balanced, we can refurbish the brakes and rebuild the wheel bearings so the car becomes more of a roller and we can move it in and out of the garage. As you can see, the windshield's broken, and that'll need to be replaced. In addition, some of the corrosion around the rear glass will need to be addressed. All the seals have dried and cracked over the years, and those will need to be replaced. This means most, if not all, the glass will have to come out. Luckily, this will give me the opportunity to pull the headliner and attempt to clean it or replace it if it's not salvageable. Fortunately, these cars were protected from rust with a process called hot dip galvanizing. Galvanization is a process in which iron or steel is coated with a layer of zinc. That zinc layer acts as a sacrificial anode, meaning rust and oxidation will occur on the layer of zinc before it attacks the steel or the iron underneath. The entire body of the car was dipped in a tank of hot zinc during the production process. That is most likely the reason why this car has no rust holes despite being outside under a tarp for a better part of a decade. As a result of this process, the bottom of the car is rock solid and there's no rust under the battery tray, which is very surprising. What usually happens in these situations is that moisture from rain or humidity can get trapped under the battery, or the cell itself will start to fail and acid will leak out and start degrading the metal underneath, and you wind up with a big dumb hole. Before we could tear into any of the other stuff, we had to tackle the 2 biggest issues: mold and spiders. So much mold and so many spiders. The vast majority of my efforts so far have been focused on fumigation and mold mitigation. When I first opened up the car, I almost passed out from the smell. It was so strong that my eyes started itching and my lungs were starting to hurt. I did everything I could to get some air flowing into the car and attempt to get the spiders flowing out of the car before bringing it home and getting it inside for the winter. The last thing I wanted to do was drag home another crap can, stuff it in my garage full of toxic mold and spiders, and have either of those things spread into my shop. I had to fog the car multiple times until I was convinced nothing was moving before I could attempt to mitigate, remove, and clean the mold. The mold was likely a result of a leak in the sunroof. It appears the sunroof leak allowed water into the driver's side door sill, which is why a majority of the paint failure is on the bottom of that door, which probably trapped between the sill and the gasket. The previous owner put a tarp over it while it was still wet, and the inside grew a thick coat of fuzzy black stuff and was able to blanket the entire interior. I had the most success using a combination of citrus-based cleaning wipes and a household cleaning product known as Wet and Forget. Wet and Forget is commonly used for removing mold and mildew from outdoor surfaces such as exterior walls and siding or fences and decks and patios. I went with this product because it was non-caustic, non-acidic, and contains no bleach, which is ideal when trying to preserve a 45-year-old interior. The overall appearance of the car in its current state is night and day compared to how it looked when we found it. While I felt pretty good about the results, I knew this was by no means a full interior detail. I just wanted to clean everything up the best I could so I could make an honest assessment about the condition of the car. Also, the cleaner the car is, the more likely I'll be to be motivated to spend time working on it. Despite the success in removing the majority of the fuzz and the stains, I'll probably wind up pulling the whole interior at some point and replacing the driver's seat at the very least. This panel was by far the worst of them all. I think I took a few years off my life while cleaning this up, and I still get a headache just watching the video. This is probably where a majority of the moisture landed after condensing and following the lines of the roof. The flat surface created a nice little landing zone for the droplets and created a little microbiome inside the car. While it was very satisfying to wipe away the buildup and reveal the clean panel underneath, I have no desire to go through this process in the future. Now, full disclosure, public service announcement. Do not be an idiot like me. You need to do this outside or in a very, very well ventilated area. You probably need to have a full-blown respirator on. Don't do what I did and just hold your breath and hope for the best. Do it outside. Now, the real question that you all are probably asking yourself, does the dang thing run or not? Well, probably not. The story that keeps trickling down from folks in the neighborhood is that the previous owner took the car to our local Jiffy Lube for an oil change and they didn't put enough oil in it. Which makes sense because these air-cooled 3-liter motors take 12 quarts of oil, which is a ton for a motor with this kind of displacement. For comparison, there's more than twice as much as in a Ford 4.6-liter modular motor like you would find in an old Crown Victoria or a Mustang, and 4 quarts more than an 8.4-liter V10 Dodge Viper, which is insane. One of the reasons an air-cooled motor like this 3-liter uses so much oil is that in the absence of a radiator or a cooling system in general, the oil carries the burden of displacing heat and dissipating it away from the internals of the motor. Another observation that corroborates the story is the fact that the rear cylinder on the driver's side had the spark plug removed when we found the car. This tells me that it was probably taken in for a compression test and the results were less than ideal. In the early 90s, the cost of a rebuild was probably more than the value of the car, so the plug was left out and the car was left to dissolve back into the earth. So that's kind of where we're at with the car at the moment. I'm going to soak down the piston rings and get a new battery in it and try to see if we have any compression. One way or another, the entire Bosch CISK Jetronic fuel injection system has crumbled and turned to dust long ago, so it probably makes sense to drop the whole motor and figure out what we're working with. In the meantime, I stumbled on this 4-cylinder Porsche industrial motor, very similar to a 356 or a 912 motor, but with a single carb and a lower compression ratio. These motors were designed for industrial applications such as a power unit for an agricultural irrigation pump or a military power generation set. Hopefully I can get it running and moved along so we can use the proceeds to fund the cost of rehabbing the 911. I'm also knee-deep in sorting out some tuning issues in what I guess would be my primary car, a 2003 Mercury Marauder, which is essentially a glorified Crown Victoria with slightly more powerful motor out of a Mustang Mach 1. Interestingly enough, this particular example is sporting a Trilogy Motorsports supercharger kit, which is based on the Eaton M112, similar to what is found in the SVT Ford Lightnings and Terminator Cobras, in addition to a fully built steel short block with forged internals and a 10.25 to 1 compression ratio. My intent with this car is to build something similar to the Crown Victorias built by Roush Racing for the Bondurant driving school in the late 90s. A Terminator Cobra Crown Victoria, if you will. A significantly cheaper, much more reliable, and undeniably geriatric redneck version of a Mercedes AMG. With gas prices creeping past $4 a gallon, this may not be the wisest idea. But if you guys are interested in seeing a video about this car and what it's capable of, let me know down in the comments and I'll see what I can do. So once again, thanks for all the positive comments and support. It really means a lot to me. And until the next time, get out there, get your hands dirty, and build something, my fellow car nerds.